Hello, this is going to be a tutorial on drawn processing. It's a technique that should allow you to work with your feelings, your emotions, to work through issues you have in your thoughts, things that are weighing on you, just anything that might be going on inside you. This is a technique that can help you to interact with it, to express it, to know it better, and to get to the other side of whatever trouble you're going through. That can mean resolution, becoming at peace with decision, working through things so that something you're anxious about, you're at ease with instead. It may be that you're stressed and you go from stress to feeling more relaxed, or like a burden has been taken off your mind, or any such thing. It can be used for anything you feel, so anger, anxiety, or stress, fear, even things like longing, desire, any such thing. And this is going to be a tutorial on how to get started with the basics of drawn processing. Let me just erase all this. I just noticed I wrote drawn process instead of process. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to be doing this tutorial on Microsoft OneNote, but really this can be done anywhere that you can draw or write. It doesn't have to be done with pictures. I'm going to be doing it with pictures. That's my normal setup, but you can do it with just words. Just trying to express different sides of yourself. So, basics is when you're getting started, you sit down. You can start this from anywhere, so you don't necessarily have to be feeling bad. You don't have to be feeling crummy. You can just be feeling completely normal, but you might be interested in going internal, going inward, and working through things, or looking into something that you're curious about on the inside. Or it might be that you're just curious about what will come up when you do process. You don't have any specific ideas of what will show up, but you know something might. Okay, so basics is if you have a sense of nothing else, you can have a sense of yourself. So here I'm going to draw myself. This is the usual drawing that I use for myself in terms of like nose shape, sort of eyes, or the caricature of myself that I put into my processing. So you can start with, in this case, you'd be just interested. So here I'm just looking into maybe myself, my inner world, and I can represent that with maybe a pool. And I'm looking in here. You don't have to do this. You might be looking at your thoughts, or looking at your feelings, or you might be paying attention to things going on in your body. Just write whatever is inside you down. At that point, what you want to look for are the responses from your feelings to whatever it is you're drawing, or whatever it is you've written. So in this case, let's see. Maybe I have someone like this. And I may skip over some of the drawing sections in the final edit. Alright, so what I have here is I wrote a different perspective that came up, and this is just sort of in response to what's going on with me in the moment, in which case I am doing this tutorial, and in response to doing the tutorial and trying to manage to create a good one, there's a side of me who comes up and is questioning, okay, so what are we doing? What are we going to talk about? Are you doing anything? Are you going to say anything in particular? Those sorts of feelings are there, and I expressed it in words here. Oh, and what are we doing here? Going to talk about anything? And at that point, okay, so you've got a feeling that came up. Now, first of all, you may feel, in addition to that, is you may feel a side of you who's like, oh my gosh, we had a feeling come up. Okay. So the idea here is you may think at first, okay, the plan for processing is we take ourselves, then we go to a feeling, then we have a conversation between ourselves and the feeling. However, this may not pan out, and from what I've found and seen, while you can sort of go along your mental expectations of how you'd like something to go, a lot of the good material, a lot of the inner progress can come from not what you expect to be there, not what your priority is, but what spontaneously develops and comes out in you, in your feelings as you do this exercise. So for instance here, this feeling that comes up, it may be significant. It seems like just a side thing, this little excitement that comes up, and it may be. However, it introduces a new unexpected element to the equation that also plays a part in your feelings. All right. So you can see another side of me came up, and it seems to be sort of the same side as this one. It's the same sort of energy, like, okay, what are you talking about? What are you doing? In this case, it's like, all right, a feeling came up. Really, that's so exciting. He's like, yep, yep, not surprising, is it? Because, yeah, we can have feelings come up. It's not a big deal. Why are we getting excited about it? Now, you may think at this point, okay, the thing to do may be to work through the conversation here. This side, right here, can respond to him. Maybe be like, well, no, it's not surprising, but I'm glad it did, and we can go somewhere with this, and there's potential here, and it's exciting. And that might start a whole conversation. But you may get a sense of something else, something different. For instance, you may have a side of you who you can sense is watching this and maybe has an expectation of how it's going to develop. And that would go something like this. Alright, so here I just drew a side that is looking at it, and you can get a sense of the emotion or the feeling that goes into that side and put it into your drawing. How do they look when they're looking at those other sides? You can get a sense of what would be written all over your face and put it on their face. And here it shows what he was thinking, that you got a sense of, that you picked up on. These two sides can debate now. Maybe. I maybe didn't state that correctly, but the main point here is he's thinking, alright, so we got this side and this side. Maybe they're going to debate, is that what we're doing right now? Because, I'm trying to get a sense of where we're going with this. This seems like where we're going with this. And again, at this point, you can have new feelings come up. In this case, might feel a side that sort of isn't showing its eyes, sort of hanging back in the shadows. And what he's doing is weighing in on this sort of expectation or idea of that now we found these two sides, they're going to debate maybe, and this side has maybe a more realistic perspective and is just there to temper the what might be an overactive imagination or overactive ideas from this other side, or maybe just sort of in response to this side grasping at something to go on, something sort of concrete, something that makes sense. But not everything is going to make sense. Things are going to be natural and unfold in their own way. You're gonna find unexpected feelings, and this guy seems to be speaking up for that perspective. Okay, so now let's say you've written down all these sides, and now nothing's coming up. And getting a sense of that feeling, you can again come back to the process and express that. Alright, so now you've drawn this new perspective that reflects your feelings of, alright, so what now? I've drawn all these things, I've started working through things, well, not really, just sort of the surface of things. I've found some things. What's going to happen now? What new thing is going to come up now? At that point, you let those new things come up. But let's say in this case, nothing does come up, and you're left wondering, alright, is anything going to come up? What's going on here? And I'm going to draw that right now. Alright, so I went ahead and wrote out some of these thoughts that one might have at this time. So given this perspective, given the feelings that are here, he might start to wonder, where's this gonna go? As he faces emotions, sides of me, what's the goal here? What are we doing? I don't get it. I mean, maybe a little, but not totally. And at that point, he's just deflated. And Or you could say, you are deflated, or this version of you is deflated. And you're just like, I don't know. You let out your thoughts, and now you're just like, alright, you had maybe these hopes, expectations of how this was going to go, and you're just up against a wall with it, and you're like, you're like admitting that you don't know what to do. You don't know where this is going to go or what to do. And let's say that you had priorities here of things you wanted to work through, and you're just not getting any traction. And the point is to just express that. You know, be aware of it and express that too. Be real with yourself and real with what you're seeing on the inside. And just continue. And this is how the process works. For instance, in this case, in response to this deflated feeling, you might get a sense of, say, this happy feeling coming along. And it might say, oh, don't feel bad. It's okay. And here you have an example of how this sort of spontaneous feeling response dynamic can be healing sometimes. Now this is just a very sort of surface level example of it being a healing thing. But you can see here, this side comes to the aid of this side with just sort of this more cheerful attitude, like, don't worry about it, it's okay, we'll be fine, you're doing fine, you're great. we're lost for the moment, but don't worry about it. Now, none of that extra stuff is here, but the feeling is there, and those other thoughts may come out as you keep going with this. So for instance, if you were to keep going with this. Alright, so here we have sort of another beat in this dynamic that's now come up between the side of you who's deflated. And note too that when you're talking from a side of you, it can seem like you're talking from you, but it's a specific kind of you that's coming out at that moment. And when you're drawing it, you can sort of feel the difference. You can note that this version of you would be better expressed through one type of drawing versus another. And maybe this you has certain priorities that you might not feel active all the time, but but priorities that do come up sometimes. Alright, and back to this new beat that's here. And beat is mostly a story narrative term, but in this case it works too. And in this beat you have this side of expressing doubt, expressing questioning of, you say it's okay, is it really okay? I mean, in general things are okay, but where are we going with this? I don't see the way. I don't see where this is going. And then this side perks up because you have a sense of this side now, so you can speak from this perspective. And you're like, no, not yet, but you might, and soon. You might find a way. Don't give up now. Whatever way you're looking for might appear, and pretty soon. So don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Don't get bogged down in these little details and feel defeated when it's just maybe a little bump in the road or just a short a short stay at a dead end in this maze that you're finding your way through. And this continuing. Alright, so I added a bit more now. And alright. So at this point, this sort of worried, concerned side, he does feel a bit better. He's not necessarily worrying as much, but he's still wondering where to go next. So he admits, yeah, it's true. I might figure out where to go, and soon. Maybe it's not so bad right now. But still, I've got this lingering priority of where to next. Where do I go from here? And so back to the other side, what does he have to say to that? Is he going to give up? Is he going to feel deflated too? Is he going to be like, oh, this is impossible or hopeless? No, he's a rather cheerful sort of side. And he's like, well, where do you want to go? He poses this question. And you sort of get a sense of this maybe spark of an idea, it feels like, that comes out as you're speaking from these other perspectives. Now, they might get deflated, sides like this. They might feel lost too, in which case there might be another dynamic. You might see this worried side comforting the more, sensitive, normally upbeat side of this guy. But in this case, he stays upbeat, and he gets a sense to ask this question of, where do you want to go? And at that point, this guy, he's feeling relaxed and maybe a bit fanciful. And so in answer to this question of where do you want to go, he ends up answering in, he's just like, I'm just going to answer this however the heck I want to. I'm going to just give voice to some fanciful notions of where I might like to go. And he's like, somewhere where the air, or at least my mind, is clean, where I can be relaxed, and maybe in a place of love and understanding. It's like, these are things that matter to him. Things that matter, essentially, to you. If this were you, or a side of you, expressing these perspectives, you'd see that, oh, these are sort of things that maybe I've lost sight of, but yeah, I do want these things. And I do want to get there, even if sort of now it's fanciful or strange to talk about. It's still fun to talk about. It's still maybe refreshing to remind myself of these more ideal notions I might have of where I want to go in my life. And this is also where, this is another example of where healing can come up, because you're bringing up things that you may not have known were weighing on you. You're reminding yourself of things that you may not have you may have forgotten that you even wanted, but you're bringing it back into awareness. You're bringing it back to sort of your active understanding, your active priorities in your life. And this sort of allows you to get back to what's important to you. In this case, that's sort of the healing that's taking place here. You didn't have to set out on a specific quest to heal yourself or fix yourself. Maybe trying to find those priorities. Maybe you had in your head, oh, I'm far away from, I forget what's important to me. I'm gonna go find it again. No, you didn't find it that way. You found it just by showing up, essentially, and including all these little, essentially random things that came up in your feelings as you went through this process. And you can see we got here in a potentially very short time now. Getting to things that really sort of lighten you up may take a bit longer, but a lot of times you may find that the things that are affecting you most strongly, maybe a sense of burden or a sense of worry, or maybe you, yeah, those sorts of things, or maybe you feel stressed, that those sorts of things can be maybe addressed rather quickly, surprisingly quickly, as compared to how, from a struggle perspective, you might think this is going to be something that's going to haunt me for, if not days or weeks, then years potentially, depending on your perspective. But you can end up finding, hey, there's a way out of feeling this way. That's not escaping the feeling, it's expressing the feeling. And you express the feeling, and other feelings, other perspectives come up and respond to whatever feeling you have. It can be the most dismal feeling in the world. It may raise alarms in you, but it also may alert more compassionate sides of you, or kind sides of you, or in this case, energetic and happy sides of you. And accessing those perspectives, you end up being able to voice perspectives into words, and you're able to express it to yourself, that able to express perspectives to yourself that are essentially healing. You know, maybe the kinds of things that you might see in you know, the world of quotes, the world of nice, lovely quotations that are out there that may not actually, you may not actually feel apply to you, or it may be hit or miss, that sort of thing, or maybe the world of spiritual teachings that are out there. You know, things like let things go, just don't, you don't need to hold on to that, or, you know, I'm thinking of like the value of forgiveness and such, but you may have sides that come up and are like, oh, forgive that person that you're holding a grudge against, but that side too, if they come at it in sort of an angry sort of way, they might have their own issues which can come up in this processing. So this can keep going like this, and let's say, well, this scenario could probably go further. For instance, you draw something. Okay. So I drew 4 more little statements, 2 each, back and forth. So this side, let's say he now replies, oh, that sounds nice. You know, reflecting on all this relaxation, love, understanding, the air being clean, mind being clean, or at least empty, and, you know, just more free, not beset by all these, you know, maybe beleaguered, struggling thoughts that all this sort of worry that this guy might have. He's like, oh, that sounds nice, this one down here. And you can see that this side is more relaxed now about just talking. He's able to um, just sort of speak from this more spontaneous, free, um, but still sincere place. And he's more relaxed about it. But he's like, yeah, I don't know though how to achieve it, get there, or what to do, not specifically. So, that's reasonable. He can think about it, but he's still not sure what to do. Um, and you can see there he's more at peace with where he is. But he's like, now that I'm at peace with it, I'm still wondering how to get to that next place that I'm interested in. And that's fine. He feels better, and he's looking for something else, something more, another expansion or addition or new development, these sorts of things, which is totally reasonable, understandable, all that. So this side, he's trying to help out, and he asks, well, what's the most important of what you mentioned? Let's sort through this. Let's get specific. If you want to narrow down on what to do practically, then what's most important of all these things? Relaxation, love, understanding, clear mind, air. Air is more like a metaphor for mind in this case. And so he's like, okay, I guess first to be relaxed. I want to be relaxed. I can get to love and understanding later, but for now, I just want to take a breather. I want to just relax and not be so intense and caught up in everything. He just wants to be relaxed. And here he's narrowing down on what he wants to do, what's his priority, and what's important to him. And if his goal is then to just be relaxed, and you'll notice that before he was asking what's the goal here of, in this case, processing what he was doing, because maybe he had these other priorities, but he wasn't finding them. He wasn't finding relaxation or love, understanding. He was just finding a bunch of randomness. A bunch of, what are we doing? Oh, we had a feeling come up. Oh, it was exciting. Is there going to be a debate here now? And he's like, this isn't really important to me on some level. But now he has a goal, and it's to be relaxed. So then, what happens then? He's identified this goal. At this point, you get to see what happens. What happens next? I'm going to draw that. Okay. So here's what he replies with, this other perspective. He's like, oh, okay. You want to be relaxed. He's like, well, why aren't you relaxed? Why don't you relax? I mean, it's easy, right? It's easy, right? And you see, this perspective, he's coming at it from the perspective. I call it perspective, and also he's coming at it from a perspective. But this side, let's call him, is coming at it from a perspective of, oh, relaxation's easy, just relax. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world, right? You just, let go of your tensions. You let yourself relax. You don't even have to do anything. You just let it happen. But of course, it's not necessarily so simple to this side. Otherwise, why would he have to go through all this to state that he wants his goal to be relaxed? And why would he get unrelaxed in the first place if it was so easy? And so he voices his concerns a little bit. I know, but I'm not sure I want to relax. I mean, relaxing is nice, but stuff needs to get done. And so stuff could be anything like activities, work, things like, you know, priorities like eating, sleeping, staying hydrated, those sorts of things. Maybe getting enough exercise. All this stuff needs to be done, or maybe there's social obligations that he's concerned about. Personal projects. So, okay, that's legitimate. Block in the way. How does the other side deal with it? What does he say? Okay. Alright, here he comes back with, well, it doesn't need to. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing does. But you can get it done. He's catching that little I don't know, not wordplay, but he's catching that sort of linguistic implication that it is necessary to get something done. It's not necessary. The world moves on whether something gets done or not. Whether anything happens or doesn't happen, things move on. It's not necessary. However, it can happen. It can get done. One can do things. So it's sort of reaffirming the nature of choice, that there is a choice involved. And it's not as though he's saying that he should make a different choice, but he's just adding in there, hey, there's freedom involved. You're not constrained to doing this stuff. The universe won't end if you don't do this. It's not a requirement. Which may be a thing that can sort of ease the tension or strain or stress of something. Because if something's a need, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get it done. It's got to be done. I've got to do it right now. It can induce panic. And of course, this may be a personal difference, but these sorts of distinctions, if need to you was associated with panic, because it might not be for everyone, it might be associated with this needs to get done, sort of a resoluteness of this is important, it needs to get done. It still doesn't need to, but in that case, it may be a more healthy feeling that is associated with that thought. But in any case, these sides of you who help you, they're tailoring their statements and their replies to you. This is all, as you might be able to see, this is all personal. This is you expressing you, and sides of you that you may have not be in touch with, or sides may not be talking specifically. You may not be one side that may benefit from the wisdom of another side may not be in contact with that other side currently. It may not be thinking about what that side's perspective on their situation might be. For instance, struggle or worry versus lightheartedness, which you could say is going on here. But again, this is all personal, so it's not a top-down working through things of alright, I'm going to work on my social anxiety, my fears, and I've got this plan or process to do it, and it's going to be specifically this. Now, okay, there can be processes like that, and they might help you to hone in on a specific thing that you may be experiencing. But this is more of a general work, a general technique or activity that you can engage in that isn't necessarily directed towards a specific goal, and yet it can help you find the things that are meaningful and important and impactful to you, because you're paying attention to you're paying attention to you, what you care about, your feelings, how you feel, your experiences, and the spontaneous occurrences inside of you, as well as the different perspectives that you can have on a given situation. So yeah, my main point is that this is sort of a personal process, and I got interrupted by the phone just there. Let's regroup. Okay, what was I saying? That's all right. So it's a personal process, and I sort of tend to prefer, having had a lot of experience with this process and with specifically trying to work through different things, is that even when you're trying to work through specific things, it can be helpful to allow yourself to go off trail, go off course into this sort of thing, into this sort of work, because then you might find a priority or an avenue that was important, but you just weren't aware of it, and you just weren't keyed into it, or you didn't suspect it from the get-go. Which is fine, because if we knew everything about why we might be feeling as we do, feeling bad, feeling lost, or etc., whatever we might feel, whatever might be unpleasant, or even just whatever we might wonder about, we may not know why that is, that we feel that way. So these sorts of other avenues, they seem to lead to awareness, this sort of being inclusive of these different perspectives, different happenings that come up. You end up being keyed into things that you weren't necessarily aware of, or you may have felt or heard on the inside, and you just didn't pay any attention to. You wrote it off as unimportant. For instance, working through these sorts of feelings, you might have written off this happier perspective of don't feel bad, it's okay, as silly. Oh, that's silly. That's just, you know, you may have gotten an inkling of it inside you of, oh, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe I can handle it. But you're like, ah, this is crushing me right now. I can't listen to that lightheartedness. This is important. I need to feel bad about this. I need to really be serious about this. And going through this sort of process, you can see how a serious perspective can benefit from and interact with, get in a dialogue with these more lighthearted, happier sides. Alright, so back to this. I know I digressed for a long while on that. Going back to these two parts. Alright, so he poses the question, alright, nothing needs to get done, but you can get it done. Can't you relax too? In your busy schedule, can't you fit in relaxation? And this guy replies, yes, but I'm thinking about those other things. Worried, I guess. There's always something else I could be doing. Some other priority. In this case, he's considering, alright, if I can fit in relaxation, then what's my problem with it? Why am I having a hard time doing that? And he's thinking about, these things are going on underneath the surface, most likely, like inside you. And this is just what you write is your expression of those things. But you can see it in his face, you can see it in sort of the way he talks about it, is that he's trying to figure out, all right, I want to relax. I can fit in relaxation into my schedule as sort of a line item for the day on my to-do list. Now is the time to relax, but why can't I? Why am I having trouble with that? Because a little bit he's assuming that he's having trouble with it. He might just not have tried it and might not given it a good try. But here he gets a sense of, all right, I tend to think about other things when I'm relaxing. What he could be doing next, for instance. Or what else he could be doing when he's relaxing. Other important things. He may have a prejudice of relaxation is a waste of time. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be just lollygagging around. But he's stated now relaxation is a priority for him. So maybe this can develop in such a way that he gets over that prejudice and is able to let himself relax more fully and more fully engage with it, knowing that this is important to him and being more willing to experience relaxing as well as whatever comes out of that, whatever develops while relaxing. But let's see what happens in this case. Okay, so things took a curious turn. In this case, this side didn't really understand what was going on with this whole, oh, but I'm thinking about other things. Maybe I get worried. There's something else I could be doing, because these are all concepts. These are all ideas, etc. And this guy operates more in the present. Now, this is sort of just my understanding of it. Maybe there's more to it than that, but I get a sense of that this side of the self is more in the present and is not necessarily all bound up in concepts, doesn't need a concept to give himself permission to go a certain way. Maybe is just the sort of fellow who might be just in a good mood and allow himself to be in a good mood, and when he feels like relaxing, he collapses and enjoys that, and just more in the moment. Does things one thing at a time and is like more fully into it. But at the very least, he doesn't seem to be very good about these concepts. So he asks, and some amount of creativity may be involved in going down these roads. But you can allow yourself to experiment, and if you get a sense of like some sort of crazy or wild idea or question that could be posed from one side to the other, and you get the sense that, yeah, that question does make sense for that perspective to say or to pose, then you can just go ahead with it and see what happens and see where it goes. If you feel good about it, if you feel that this is potentially a fruitful direction to go in. Oh, and that phone again. Let me turn the volume down. Okay. So this side asks, well, what about relaxing right now? Let's try it out. You want to relax. You think that there's some problem or that you're having an issue with relaxing. Let's see it. Let's have a demonstration right now of either you relaxing or you showing what's getting in the way. So just, you want to relax, try to. Let's stop talking about it and let's do it. And you can see where this might be a sort of refreshing perspective or point of view, or it's suddenly like, oh, this is not going to just be in concept anymore. We're actually going to try it. We're not just going to talk about it. And yeah, you can go that direction. You can make it happen for yourself. These positive things, or these things that you might like to try inwardly, that may be a priority for you, you can try it. Right there. And let's see what happens. Alright, so here we have a little bit of him trying to relax. He's like, oh, okay, let's try it. He's down for that. And at this point, you might realize that action comes into play. And at this point, you're just recording your actions. So as this side tries to relax, you would be doing this because this side of you is a part of you, a robust enough part of you that bodily, if this side tries to relax, you would feel that attempt or experience that attempt as well. It's making a choice, and so you're also making a choice. Now, maybe you don't. This one's a little tricky because it's like, how do you write that a side of you relaxes unless you, in the moment that you're experiencing this side of you, also try to relax? So this is not a hands-off thing. This is not a hands-off experience. This is hands-on. This is being yourself. This is sometimes daring to be a little experimental. I mean, just relaxing doesn't seem that experimental, but you know, it may be for this side of you a little out of your comfort zone to just experiment like that. So this is something that in the process you have to consider. It's all up to you what you're comfortable with, what you're okay with, and not that you have a reason not to be comfortable or okay with this, but you might. I may not be thinking of one necessarily right now, but you might not be necessarily okay with this, and those feelings, you can work with those or through those too. You can have a side that comes up and is like, I don't want to try it. Let's try it. No. How about no? I don't want to try that right now. It seems a little, like, why are we doing this? We don't need to relax right now, or don't need to try this out. For whatever reason, you might find out the reason for that through this process again. And again, this is where it comes in being able to let go mentally of your expectations of where things should go. Because something new can come up at any time and quote-unquote interrupt what you're doing. However, that interruption can be part of the flow of processing as well. And it can be a productive or positive flow. Again, something you didn't expect that can still be a positive thing in the end after you work through it and start to go through this process of feelings and perspectives responding to each other. Alright, so in this case he tries relaxing. It looks a little silly while doing it. I'm not necessarily used to it, so he just relaxes his muscles. And so this looks kind of funny when you draw it. This sort of deliberate relaxation. And so the other side laughs about it. That's funny. And he's sort of just being... it is. He's trying to do something serious, so this other guy's laughing at him. But he takes it in stride, pretty much, and goes right back to trying it some more. And trying to relax. And at that point, maybe the other side is just, maybe he's a little happier than that. Oops. And so maybe he's watching and just, not necessarily participating at this point, because the side is taking it into his own hands to try and relax. So what comes next? I'll go ahead and draw that. Alright, so here he's done this relaxation. He's sort of in the relaxation. He's like, oh, it's not so hard, not really, to stay relaxed. Now he may have troubles later, but for now these are his feelings, let's say. And here we have basically a little conclusion to this section of this side. He's like, nope, it isn't. He already knew that it wasn't so hard, and so he's just, but he's happy that this other fellow, this other side, experiences the same thing now, and knows the same thing. And now he's pretty happy, but he's also thankful. So he mentions to the other side, thanks. And the other side's like, yep, no problem, because you see, he's happy to help, to be a part of this whole process and help this guy out, to see a new perspective, to get to something that feels important to him, and all that. Now remember, this guy may have other goals, maybe deeper relaxation for one, or he may have those goals, love and understanding. Thoughts, worries might still bother him, but those things can come up maybe at a later time. For now, he might just be feeling like this is good enough for now. This gives him something to try out, and maybe in the coming days, on a physical, on a outside of processing version of you level, you might say, if you're laying in bed or just when you're getting stressed, you might go somewhere and just try out relaxing, simply. And, akin to what was going on here. And in this way, you would have maybe new experiences, and new feelings would come up from those experiences, and that might be something that comes into play at a later time in processing. It's always, when you're processing, the current you, the current feelings, thoughts, ideas, perspectives that you feel are you, as well as perspectives that you may have access to or can feel, but maybe you don't necessarily believe on like a mental level, a conceptual level, but you may be willing to entertain what these parts of you have to say, because they're still parts of you, they're still parts of your system. For instance, you can have sides of you who are like this guy, in that they're sort of emotional and in the moment, but being able to put what they have to say into words in order to understand it may be really confusing, or it may just, elude you, and you just get a sense of their emotions. Maybe they're just sad or feeling in the dumps, depressed, uh, just generally passive, grumbly. These sorts of things that can be a priority for you because maybe you don't want to feel sad, depressed, grumpy, grumbly, etc., and you want to feel good. But this part of you may pose a problem to that because they're the embodiment of that feeling. And how do you change a side of you's feelings? Well, it may be something like trying to understand and get to know them, or it may be a process of trial and error as you learn and you try to understand, but you may fail, you may feel frustrated, etc. Again, all those sorts of feelings and situations can be expressed in this sort of format. So that's basically it for the drawn processing tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you have any comments about it, questions about the process, how to do it, how to approach it, problems you might have with it, just let me know, either in the contact page on my website or in the comments down below. That said, I hope this was informative, and it helps you to have a tool for working through the things in your life that are important to you and that may really trouble you at some points, because we can all have those things, get stuck in those places that maybe feel dark or depressing or dull or just negative in some way. And this is one of the techniques that I've found for my own life that has really helped me to work through things, both large and small, both intense and not so intense, and to express any kind of feeling that I can express through words or pictures, etc. Anyway, again, I hope this was a positive thing for you, and let me know your feedback, and that's all for now. Thank you very much.